Man, I was shocked by that verdict. Because the last thing I heard, they were deadlocked on manslaughter, right? So I'm saying to myself, okay, that must mean that there was some people willing to convict on manslaughter and some who were not. And they couldn't move to the lesser charge until they had a unanimous decision on the first one, whether to acquit or whatever. However, the prosecution said, well, since they're deadlocked, let's just dismiss the manslaughter charge and go with the less serious charge of criminal negligent homicide, right? And I guess the prosecution was banking on the fact, well, if there were some who would be willing to convict on manslaughter, surely they would be willing to convict on criminal negligent homicide. So in my mind, I'm saying, well, this will either be a mistrial or a conviction. And to my surprise, it was an acquittal. Now, how could that be? How could that be, given the evidence that most people know about, right? Which is, Jordan Neely was unarmed. Yes, he was, very agitated. He had some mental illness issues. We all know that, right? And if you've been on the subways, you know that this happens. Many people deal with that all the time, right? But the question for me is, does a person deserve to lose their life because they have mental issues? Because from all accounts, he didn't assault anybody physically. Could he have said some words that were verbally assaulting? Probably. But for me, to justify self-defense, there needs to be some type of assault by the perpetrator, which in this case would be Jordan Neely. From all the evidence provided, there was no physical assault on anyone on that train. Daniel Penny decided that he was going to be the hero and took Jordan Neely down, choked him out for 6 minutes, and Jordan Neely lost his life. So for me, it's an open and shut case. How does someone deserve to die because they had a mental illness issue, right? All right, let me play this clip of the medical examiner explaining, or at least the news organization explaining what the medical examiner found, right? So what the defense tried to do is to try to say, okay, they found some alternative kind of cannabis in his system. They call it K2. And they're trying to suggest that because of drug use, that helped aid in his death. They also try to use the fact that Jordan Neely had sickle cell trait and try to say, well, maybe that aided in his death. Now, we all know sickle cell trait is not sickle cell anemia, right? But that's what they're going to try to allege. And for me, I think this was the out for the jury to say, well, you know what? These things probably contributed to his death, so therefore it's not Penny's fault.
It's a dramatic update in the case of the Marine veteran who has pleaded not guilty to charges related to the chokehold death of 30-year-old Jordan Neely.
Witnesses testified Neely entered the subway last year threatening people, and Penny tried to restrain him. Dozens of people have testified on the stand. The prosecution alleges Penny used excessive force. Alice Gaynor has been in the courtroom all week. She's live outside with an update. Alice.
Dick and Mary, prosecutors called more than 30 witnesses to the stand. The last to testify is the doctor who performed the autopsy on Jordan Neely. We just got an update moments ago. Court is finished for the day, but the defense has not finished their cross-exam, so the medical examiner will return Monday for questioning. Today, jurors were shown photos from the autopsy, in particular of Jordan Neely's neck and eyes.
Dr. Cynthia Harris ruled Jordan Neely's cause of death compression of the neck or asphyxia. Prosecutors say Daniel Penny had Neely in a chokehold for nearly 6 minutes. In a voluntary police station house interview, Penny demonstrated.
And I kind of came like this. Okay. Did you apply pressure, Daniel?
No, I wasn't. I just wanted to keep him from getting to people.
After Penny let go of Neely, several witnesses, including responding officers, testified Neely had a pulse. Dr. Harris says that's not surprising. This is an asphyxial death. The brain dies first. Neely had sickle cell trait. She testified it's normally benign, an asymptomatic condition, but his spleen and red blood cells were sickled. In her medical opinion, she testified, it was caused because he was in a low oxygen situation. A toxicology report revealed Neely had a synthetic cannabinoid, otherwise known as K2, in his system. But she told the jury no one can say how much, because current testing does not quantify it. It only determines if it's present, since synthetic cannabinoids change like fashion trends. On cross-examination, defense attorneys asked her about higher rates of toxicity and hospitalizations due to K2. She said it was 2 to 100 times more potent to standard natural occurring cannabinoids. They also noted after she performed the autopsy, Neely's death certificate originally said cause of death pending further study. Dr. Harris said that was due to a misunderstanding. A police report said Neely had been screaming, so she had questions. After viewing video of an unresponsive Neely, and though waiting for toxicology results, she made her ruling, doubling down, telling the jury that Neely could have had enough fentanyl in his system to knock down an elephant, and that still would not have changed her opinion.
Those of you who are not old enough, let's say if you were born after maybe 75, you probably don't remember the Bernhard Goetz case, which is the subway vigilante. And I should have known, man, because this Penny case kind of reminded me a little bit about what happened in 1984. And this was about this white dude gets on the train, and apparently some kids came up to him. I'm going to let this video give you the background of the particular case. And what you're going to find ironic is that Bernhard Goetz didn't even face charges for attempted murder.
In the mid-1980s, violent crime was at an all-time high in New York City. On December 22, 1984, Bernhard Goetz boarded a subway car armed with an unlicensed pistol. 3 years earlier, Goetz had been mugged, and so he often carried a pistol to protect himself. While on the subway car, 4 young men in their late teens approached Goetz. Although the young men didn't brandish a weapon or explicitly threaten violence, Goetz feared they were dangerous. When one of them said, quote, "Give me $5, unquote, Goetz concluded that he was about to be robbed again. Goetz responded to the perceived threat by shooting 3 of the young men. Then, after pausing for a few seconds and looking around, Goetz saw the 4th young man sitting. Goetz then shot him too. Goetz fled from the scene, but turned himself in to the police a few days later. Without remorse, he admitted to the shooting, but said he honestly believed he was about to be robbed. He also said that he wished there had been more ammunition in his pistol so he could have fired more bullets at them. 3 of the young men whom Goetz shot recovered from their injuries, but 1 was left paralyzed. A state prosecutor convened a grand jury and asked it to consider various charges against Goetz, including attempted murder. The prosecutor instructed the grand jury on the defense of justification, that is, whether Goetz properly acted in self-defense. The prosecutor told the grand jury that they shouldn't charge Goetz if they believed that his perception of the need to use deadly force was objectively reasonable. The prosecutor also asked the grand jury to consider a separate charge related to Goetz's illegal possession of the firearm. The grand jury rejected the justification defense and charged Goetz with attempted murder and related crimes, as well as with illegal possession of a firearm. Goetz moved to dismiss the indictment on the ground that the prosecutor had erroneously instructed the grand jury that justification requires an objectively reasonable belief. Goetz argued that the justification defense should only concern his subjective state of mind. The state trial court agreed and dismissed the indictment. The prosecution appealed the dismissal, but the state's intermediate appellate court affirmed. The prosecution then appealed to the New York Court of Appeals.
Now you got to see this confession. Here's this white dude, right? No remorse, non-apologetic, happy he did it, wish he could have done more. Now you tell me, if this was a brother who attempted to kill 4 white people, do you actually think he could walk free?
I'm not hiding behind anything. I don't have any attorney here. I'm not going to hide behind a technicality of saying, oh, you shouldn't say this, and oh, you shouldn't say that. If the truth isn't enough, listen, if a person has to be reduced to this kind of an animal to survive in the city, if you take a rat, okay, I was vicious. I don't deny it. I told the guys, I don't know if it's in that statement, but if you take a rat and you corner it, and you, let's say just one time, you start poking it with red hot needles, and the rat doesn't know how to react, and you do this, okay, and you wind up doing it again, or perhaps again, and if once in a while a rat turns viciously on you and just becomes a total vicious killer, which is really what I was, then don't go passing statements of morality saying, well, this was not warranted, or this was, you should have done this, or all you had to do was show the gun. I've been in situations where I've shown the gun. What happened here is I snapped. Look, if I had more bullets, I would have shot them all again and again. My problem was I ran out of bullets, and I was gonna gouge one of the guy's eyes out with my keys afterwards. You can't understand this. I know you can't understand this. That's fine. The only reason I didn't do it is because he had changed his look. I ran up to the first 2 to check them who were on the ground, the first 2 that I had shot. And they were taken care of. It's all very cold-blooded, and this is going to offend everyone. I went back to the other 2 to check on them. And the fellow who was standing up, I was sure I'd shot him. It was funny. I wanted to give it anything nonsense, which I wonder if I missed. But I went to him the second time, and I looked at him. And he can't verify this because he was probably out of it by then. If I'd shot him or if he wasn't, I don't know. And I said, you seem to be doing all right. Here's another.
This is my message to the palm-colored people. I don't want to hear you complain about O.J. Simpson anymore. Enough is enough. You guys have literally been getting away with killing black folks forever with very little accountability. I remember, when the verdict came out with O.J. Simpson, you guys lost it. Now, clearly, it's still okay to kill black people and there's no accountability. But I want to talk to the brothers and sisters. It's going to get worse because with this new administration coming in, he promised to give police sovereign immunity, meaning that they can do whatever they want to us. And there's nothing you can do about it. Ben Crump is going to be out of a job. No more civil suits. So you guys need to buckle up and understand what's coming. And many of you voted for this, so hey, you're going to see how it's going to affect the black community. Because if an average white citizen can get away with murder, imagine what the police can do. This is what's coming. So just be aware. Peace.